stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
more ways than one.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
was fun. That was fun to do.
Was that all one coat stuff that you guys were doing over there?
Mostly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Big one coat market, just like Arizona was a big one coat market on the residential side.
Sure.
In Arizona, the commercial side typically still uses 3-coat.
Okay.
In New Mexico, and yeah, most of New Mexico, the big commercial will use 1-coat. So we were doing big giant walls, large jobs, projects. If it's not eifs, it'll go 1-coat out there.
Got it.
Just because that's the way it is. I don't know. 3-coat's just not a real big popular coating or cladding out there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so when the energy stuff started happening in the 70s, when 1-coat came into the market, they were part of that because it really took off originally in Phoenix, correct? Or in Arizona?
Started in Florida, and then it
Oh,
came
is that
to
right?
Phoenix. Yeah.
Got it.
Bill, well, I wrote an article about it one time in Walls and Ceilings magazine. And I interviewed a guy named Bill Nichols, who was like, what was it? What was that product? Master Wall, I believe was his product.
Okay.
He said it started back when he was with another company, and they wanted him to make this parging product to go over CMU block, to stucco it, kind of do up. It was early stages of stucco.
Got it.
And so he came up with this product, cement-based product, acrylic modified, had a lot of water entrainment chemicals in it. And he said that they would just dry stack the block and then spread this stuff over it. It would hold the block in place, and they would just grout it, and they eliminated all the grout joints. So they came up with this thing, and they started doing houses that way in Florida. And this is his story of telling me.
Sure.
And so I think it was American Homes was becoming more popular in Arizona, a home builder. And they had worked with Bill Nichols over there in Florida. They says, hey, can you come over to Arizona and do this? But we don't build with block, we build with wood frame. So we're going to have this lath that we're going to have to do, paper and lath. So Bill goes, yeah, no problem. So I don't know how he came up with the 1-inch 20-gauge wire, chicken wire y'all call it, but it's stucco netting. And the reason they came up with 3/8 at the time was the thickness is because that was the amount of mud it took to cover the wire completely without it showing. So that's how 3/8 came to be. So they made 3/8 ground, 3/8 stucco, and they called it 1-coat because it used to be colored in the base coat, and the finish was colored too. So they would put on the base coat, much like a double back method.
Sure.
Apply all the base coat to 3/8, and then come right back with the colored finish, do the finish, done, 1-coat. You get it all done in one day. That's how it originally started.
Got it. And so that wasn't over foam yet.
It wasn't over foam yet. It was just over sheathed paper, the 1-inch 20-gauge wire. And then, then the energy crunch came in. They started the foam. And they realized they didn't need the sheathing when the foam was in place. Of course, as with anything, they want to try and value engineer everything. And sheathing and foam was a cost when foam by itself over open studs works fairly well. And I say fairly well. When it first started, it was actually 1 pound foam, 1.5 pound density foam, which is pretty rigid.
Yep.
And I don't know what they use today. This much less than a pound.
Sure,
density,
exactly. Hey, it all adds up. You know how many houses we're doing, dude?
It's a game of inches.
Exactly.
I live in a 1-coat stucco home with foam, so it works done properly. I'm not here to say anything bad about any of that process. Yeah. So yeah, that's when the over the foam started, right over open stud, and then so you put your paper first, then the foam, and the foam's dimpled, and it's tongue and groove.
Got it.
Then they put the 1-inch 20-gauge wire on there, and then away you go.
Yeah.
3/8 and your finish.
Yep.
Kind of morphed into the colored stucco. Kind of went away. It's with any integrally colored cementitious stucco product, you're going to have color variations. Yeah. That's why I think part of that led to, let's just paint. And when you look at when you look at a massive housing development, and you've got a warranty for however many years, it's much easier for a maintenance guy to go in there and paint a patch than it is to try and match a colored finish.
It'll never match.
It'll never match.
No.
So I think that's how we got away from that massive use of or sole only use of the colored stucco into the stucco and paint.
Mm-hmm.
At least in Arizona it went.
Sure.
And now it's all acrylic finish.
Got it.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it started in Florida
That's what I was told, yeah.
because of the
Thorowall, that was the company he was working for.
got it. Because I know that they wanted to save energy in these desert regions, with the AC and so forth, the heat that you guys deal with out in those areas. It makes a big difference.
It does.
It does save energy. You're using more energy to create the foam.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're saving your AC
Yeah,
bills.
you got that whole embodied energy thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole nother topic.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
So when you went to New Mexico and you were working with your brother, how many years were you in the trade before you made that move?
Oh, so that was 80. I was probably 12, 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of relatively new into the trade.
Yeah.
Just long enough to get hooked.
Sure.
To say, I'm going to do this. I like this. Yeah.
You were a journeyman at that point for sure.
I defined myself as a journeyman because I knew how to do everything. Backing up a little, learning from these old timers, and I call them old timers, the seasoned, true journeymen.
Mm-hmm.
They always tell me, don't be known as the derby guy. Don't be known as a float guy. Don't be known as a spread guy. He goes, you're a plaster. Learn it all. And I learned interior. I learned running the molds. I learned gypsum plaster.
Good for you.
Yeah, I learned it all from these guys. And
Yeah.
in fact, when we were in New Mexico, we did a lot of gypsum plaster interior up in Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
The homeowners there can afford plastered interiors.
Sure.
And we did a lot of it. And that was my first experiment pumping gypsum plaster for the brown coat. My brother says, if it's wet, we can pump it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, bro, you can't pump gypsum. He goes, yes, we can. And we did.
Got it.
You just can't turn off that pump very often.
No, that's for sure.
You just got to go.
Yeah.
And I know this. So he was working for a company called Presidio out there. And there was a Presidio plastering down in Tucson. And sometimes when we get slow over there, Danny would send the crews down to Tucson to help a guy named Wayne Sharp do some work down in Tucson. And we were down at Fort Wwcca doing the huge barracks job, and we were pumping gypsum plaster down there.
Got it.
And just going, just room after room after room after room, rotting, and it was just a lot of fun. I didn't know we could pump gypsum plaster, but we did.
You made it work. It was better than hand driving it. A
lot faster too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
we pumped everything. In New Mexico, we pumped everything.
Mm-hmm.
There would be times where we'd pump a garage, a little 200-yard, because right down the street there was a house, and we just load everything up, loaded still, drag it over to the house, start pumping that house. So you time your masking guys, you send them ahead to mask.
Sure.
It's just all a matter of
Planning.
Putting your manpower where you need them.
Yeah.
They don't need to have everybody there when you're pumping. There can be guys out masking, and you do your pumping, and they come back and float. So
Yeah.
my brother was a nut. He was an absolute nut.
Yeah, Danny, I want to have you on here. So
You should.
he will be
He's
coming
the most
out
creative
here to do
person
this.
I've ever met. I remember one time, not to digress a little bit here, but we were on a job and the mixer. We go. I mean, go. New Year's Eve, we have to work a half a day. You can party all night. You can have New Year's Day off, but we're working half a day on New Year's Eve, which always turned into 2, 3 o'clock. Anyway, that's just how he was.
Sure.
He get things done. So we blow a mixer engine, and we're thinking, all right, a day off.
Nooner.
So we're nooner, yeah. Right. So it happened kind of towards the end of the day. We finished the job. We see the tow truck come up, pulling up the truck, come and load the pump on there. And we're all like, yeah, no work tomorrow. Well, he hauled it to the next job and dropped it at the next job in front of the sand pile and took the motor off and brought another motor and put it on there. And took that motor to go get rebuilt. So we didn't miss nothing. He towed it. I was like, dang it, bro. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how driven he is to get this done. It's it all comes from passion. He's a little more driven than I am. But yeah, that was one of our deals.
And did you do any lathing?
Only piecework lath for a little bit in California.
In NorCal?
And I used to do when I'd have my own jobs.
Mhm.
I did some work on my own, you know,
Yeah.
to pay for Christmas, buy some gifts, do
Sure.
whatever.
Got it.
I always lathed my own projects.
Mhm.
I enjoyed lathing. It was fun.
Got it.
I learned how to tie wire, you know, hang, lath, and
Yeah.
wire tie, and
Well, that's kind of like if you're a lather, that's part of your trade.
yeah,
You know, so it's kind of like the plaster. You're not the floater.
you're not a trim guy, you're not a wire guy.
Right, exactly. You learn all of it.
You learn it all.
You
Absolutely.
learn all of it. And nowadays, you know, a lot of guys are specialists. You know, they're only good at one thing instead of being very well rounded to be able to make anything look good and do it in a timely fashion.
Yeah,
You know,
it's sad.
And the other thing is too is you're really not a journeyman until you got 10 years in the trade. You know, 3 years just isn't long enough because there's so many. You know, I'm talking like drywall and lathing and framing and so forth.
All of it.
You know, same with plastering. You know, there's so many different techniques to it and different products that are used, and it's a moving target. You
Yeah.
know, everybody's trying to come up with the latest and greatest to capture some market share, and it takes a long time to be able to get into a situation and know how to improvise with materials that you have available to you. And it's like 10 years. So in Europe, you know, when they would train these guys, you know, they would live on these jobs.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
And it was 10 years before they would turn them out. And they stayed, their journeyman or their foreman was their Sherpa. And
That's cool.
they taught them everything.
Mhm.
And you know, they didn't have modern equipment and modern techniques. You know, this was all, you know, pyramid style stuff. And they were true craftsmen. You know, you get a lot of these Europeans that come over into America, and they're a different breed on how they approach stuff. It's old school. It really is. And it's
But it works.
they're true craftsmen.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's a pleasure to see. I mean, I still see it out in the field once in a while.
Sure.
You can tell a guy who really likes what he's doing, is really nimble and good with what he's doing, and
Yeah.
you know, it's yeah, I love the craft, love it.
So a lot of what's happening now is, you know, prefabrication is a big deal in the industry now. And a lot of that is due to not having enough manpower to get these jobs done, you know, because we're lacking these people getting into the trades. And, you know, part of this podcast was to help inspire younger guys that, you know, you could make a really great living doing this. And you're working with your hands, and you get some self-satisfaction by walking away at the end of the day or the end of the project, and it's something that's going to stand there for many, many years. And the prefabrication, you know, modular construction and so forth is great for production and repetition, right? So it's a controlled environment, you know, and
Correct.
you have these guys that set these shops up that know how to install these materials, and they're pushing it more and more and more.
They are. Yeah, we're seeing more of it. In fact, we're you know, part of my role is helping negotiate contracts, and we've now, with the carpenters, plasters, some of them, we have a separate rate for this work segment. You know, in-house panelization.
Got it.
Because it is what it is, right? And
Sure.
typically you may have a seasoned journeyman overseeing, but you know, this repetition thing you're talking about, it's one guy just doing the same thing over and over and over again. You know, great. Some people like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't take that away from them.
Sure.
So they work in these panel yards, and it works great. But there's two points I want to make about panelization. One is the Strip in Las Vegas was built on panelization. It's not a new thing.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination.
No.
We have been doing it forever, right?
Yeah.
We just did it out in the open in shops, and the wind would come by and ruin all your work, and you'd have to respray it all, right?
Sure.
You know, can't
Yeah.
move your yard around because they're going to build something there.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it provides quicker installation when it's planned for the quicker installation. So you got to have your stuff ready to go. You got to have all your mounting things in place. You have to have the cranes set up to go. And like they would do in Vegas, you'd quit one day on a Friday, you come back on Monday and there'd be 2 floors clad. I mean, they just go boom, 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 boom.
Sure.
But they were geared up for it. And I think there's maybe a lack of knowledge. It's getting better, or a misperception that if I build something in a shop and I take it out here, it's going to make my job go faster. If the conditions are right, right? If everything's ready to go, because you can't take a panel out there and then pop 1,000 holes in it to put in your vents and your electrical and your stuff, and because it defeats the whole purpose.
Sure.
So it's got to be it's a choreograph. It's a dance on the job site, making panels work. But I agree with you. It's an exciting way to look at things, and there's a lot. I keep referring to Danny, and he has the idea of on these panel shops. When you spray a finish, you have to have your panels sitting up, so you get perpendicular spraying, which helps with the shadowing.
Exactly.
Of the pattern.
Yeah.
When the panel's laying down, you can hold your nozzle perpendicular, but how do you reach way in there? You use a long nozzle. Okay, that's hard on a guy's back.
Sure.
So my brother comes up with the idea to suspend a guy on a catapult, a pulley. He lays in a harness, and he's got the nozzle, and they just float him over this panel, and he sprays the panel. I go, where do you come up with this stuff?
Human 3D, bro.
Yeah, right? He goes, they do it. They do it in all kinds of stuff. He goes, it's just done. He goes, that'd be great for a panel yard. So there's a freebie for somebody.
Got it. Hey, whatever it takes to make it happen.
It's generating thought. It's generating creativity. They're finding ways to make panels better. And the beauty of it is it's in a controlled environment. All the materials can cure properly. They can set properly. You have good temperatures. You're not out in the blazing heat. There's no dust to worry about.
Sure.
Everything's semi-automated in its movement. There's a lot of great examples of panel yards.
Yeah.
Really good.
Well, doing exterior claddings, like you said, is nothing new.
No.
It's been done for 30 plus years.
Yep.
When I was an apprentice, we were building panels. We were doing hotel exteriors.
Yeah.
And the thing that's new is load bearing construction with metal studs, and that's fairly new. And it's I've had a guy on here that ran a couple of jobs that were load bearing, and it's all about adjustability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So these floors, they figured out some stuff to make it so that it is adjustable, and
It has to be.
It's not forgiving construction, by any means.
No.
And the thing that I was thinking, so you get these guys in this controlled environment, and everything is thought out for them. It's all pre-planned, it's all pre-cut. It's like a Lego set, right? So when you get onto a job and you've been working in this, say you started as an apprentice in this panel operation, and then they say, okay, you're a carpenter journeyman now, and we're going to send you out to this job. You don't know how to improvise.
No.
So
yeah.
That's something to think about.
Well, you have to rely on your lead guy. I mean, but you're right.
Because every job is different in every condition. You have to know how to use your tools and the materials that are available to you to make this stuff look good. And that kind of goes back to, if you got 10 years in the field, you can get into basically any situation and make it look good when it's done. With your basic tools and the materials that you have to make it look right. So that, I think that's some people should think about that when they're